All right, what's up, everyone? So today we're going to cover part 2 on how to get a software engineering job fast. So in the last video, we covered all about how to build your personal brand online, as well as building a killer resume and tailoring that specifically to each and every job and company that you apply for to give you the best foot forward. So today we're going to cover all about next steps. How do you actually source jobs by talking with recruiters? And how do you do the job interview and make sure that you totally kill it at those job interviews, get your offers, and get that job fast. So without further ado, let's dive right in. All right, so the first step is all about sourcing jobs. Now, the best way that I'd recommend you do this is, first of all, just go and find some job openings that you're interested in. But at the same time, just think about like companies, like figure out what companies you're interested in, get a big list. I would recommend starting with a spreadsheet or using another tool for that. And basically you're gonna reach out to recruiters on LinkedIn. So the first step is making sure that your LinkedIn profile looks super sharp, just like your resume. And basically, is that a LinkedIn profile that's gonna match many of the jobs that you're looking for? Your LinkedIn profile does have to be more generic and less tailored, so make sure that it just shows your best light on each of the types of jobs that you're interested in. So actually, recruiters might even start reaching out to you. And then here's the other tip. So if you connect with people who are very similar to you or similar to the jobs that you're looking for, just having that connection means that when a recruiter searches for that person, you might even show up in that similar people for this kind of role. So definitely add a lot of connections that are similar to you in terms of the jobs that you want to apply for. All right, so the next step is find, for each company and role that you're interested in applying for, just find a recruiter on LinkedIn that matches, that's kind of looking for that same company, that same role. And just send them like a connection request and basically put a quick message. Hey, I love this role. Here's why I'm a great fit. So you would say, I believe that my skills match for this reason, XYZ, or I'm interested in your company because, it fits my interest, XYZ. Would you be available for a 15-minute phone call in the next week or two? And then that way, you're just opening up a line of communication. Recruiters love it when you reach out to them and they see your profile and you look like a good fit. So that's absolutely the way to go. If the recruiter has an email in their profile, then what you can do is actually send up a follow-up email as well. So you would just send them an email with the same kind of info, like, hey, are you available for 15-minute phone call? Here's why I'm, I believe that I'm a good fit for this role for these reasons. And yeah, so that way, if they check their email, they check their LinkedIn, they're gonna see that. And feel free to follow up semi-regularly. So, recruiters will sometimes just hit you up like every couple of days. You don't necessarily need to be like follow up that much, but they really won't mind. So a couple times a week until they reply. And at the end of the day, as long as you don't seem too annoying, definitely just keep following up until you get some kind of response. And they might just say like, hey, you're not a fit or something. All right, so the next thing you're gonna do is source jobs through actually applying directly through the job. So in addition to actually reaching out to the recruiter on LinkedIn, what you can do is just apply directly through the job listing. And so what you're gonna do is pull up the job listing and just read through it, see specifically like what they're looking for, what kind of skills they're looking for. If you believe that you have anywhere from like 50 to 70% of their requirements, that's enough and you can go ahead and apply. So what you're gonna do is look through your resume and just figure out like, okay, you got your master copy of your resume, and you're gonna make a copy of that and tailor it very specifically. So only really list the things that are relevant to that job and basically leave off most of everything else unless it's actually supporting that kind of job that they're really looking for. So you're definitely gonna wanna tailor very specifically your resume to the job listing, because most candidates don't do this, and this is really gonna give you a huge step forward in terms of them selecting you. They use keyword searches a lot of times, so this will help your resume rank higher in their sifting software. As well, when they take a look and they look at you, they're gonna see that you match up with the job listing. So at the end of the day, that's gonna make you just fit better for this job. So after you've applied online and submitted that application, what you should do is just try to find a recruiter on LinkedIn and basically follow up with them, send an email, send a LinkedIn message, make a connection and say, hey, I've just applied for this job listing. I believe I'd be a great fit for these reasons. I'm interested in the company for these reasons. Are you available for a 15-minute phone call? I would love to hear more about open roles at your company. So that kind of thing, and just follow up with them. And that's another way to just get on the phone and, you're basically just increasing the visibility that you have to that company, so that they've seen you multiple times compared to the average candidate they've only seen once. Just going to much increase your chance of getting to that next step. All right, so the next step is all about the phone screen itself. Now, in the last couple of steps, it's all about a volume game. You're going to want to do a lot of reach outs, a lot of job applications. It might take 100 to 200 applications before you're going to get maybe like 1 out of 10 is a good number to hit. So you'll get like 10 to 20 replies of some kind, like, hey, I'd be interested in next steps. If you've done 100 to 200 applications and you still haven't gotten any follow-ups, it means just keep following up. It's a lot of work, but this is how you get your job fast. So what you want to do is just keep following up until they send you some kind of reply. If they do send a reply, hey, not at this time, you can apply in 6 months. But basically just keep replying, especially to the jobs you're very interested in, until you hear back something. And by that way, you will definitely get some phone screens. So here's how to handle a phone screen. So what you want to do is basically you're going to schedule the phone screen with the recruiter. And the phone screen, this first phone screen, is usually just a chance for you to tell your story. It's for the recruiter to get to know you, make sure that you're a good fit. And then if they like you, what they're going to do is pass your resume on to the hiring manager, who's going to make more of the decisions about who they're going to carry forward to the next part of the interview process. So all you need to do is just talk about your skills and experience. Make sure to highlight the relevant ones. You can really tell a story. This is a way that you can stand out. Just talk about your experiences working on projects or working at other companies that are in very similar roles. And basically talk about how you're interested in the job and ask them some good questions about their company, about the team, and what kind of things they're working on, and so forth. And after you do a couple of these phone screens, you're gonna start to get more practice and get into the flow and basically have this, standard way that you're going to tell your story. You're going to ask about the position, and then you ask about next steps. It's like, oh, well, what would be the next steps? And so they're going to say, oh, okay, so I'll pass this to my hiring manager. We're going to review it, and then we'll let you know. And then you just keep following up. So you would say, thank you so much, for getting on the phone with me. I really like this role, or I'm really good fit for this role for these reasons. We'll hear from you soon. Or you can ask them about a timeline. And basically, once you've got the timeline, if they say like a week, you would follow up in a week to say like, hey, I love chatting the other day, and I just wanted to follow up, to see if if the hiring manager was able to review me yet, and so forth. And you can sell again at that point, or whatever you want. The important thing is just keep following up until you get that yes or no answer. And that's the way you're gonna get a job fast. All right, so especially for software engineers, interview practice is actually one of the meatiest things you're gonna have to do. So this is like technical practice, is practicing all of these code questions that are actually gonna test your skills for the job. So let's dive right into all the different ways that you can practice for interviews to get that job fast. All right, so you're gonna wanna start with a couple of the most standard platforms. So there's HackerRank, CoderByte, and LeetCode. So those are the ones you're gonna wanna start with. Just go ahead and create an account on all of those, try them out, see which ones you like the most, and just start solving some practice questions. So the way this works is you're gonna wanna study skills and like figure out, like, all of these platforms help you with this, is basically going from beginner to expert. So it's a lot of different stuff. It could be like, sorting a string, all the way up through data structures to tree and graph problems, and, more advanced, or anything in between. So all these different platforms are very similar. So I recommend you just try out all three of them, see which ones you like the most, and see which one is the best fit for you. But at the end of the day, there are companies who are basically paying these platforms to send the data of candidates to those companies so that they can reach out to you. So that's one way. But also, it's just gonna help you practice so that when you take the interview with any other company, you're gonna perform very well. All right, so I wanted to mention one alternative, which is called HackerEarth. They're kind of new, and they're supposed to be more accurate at assessing your skills. So definitely check that one out as well. Another one I wanted to highlight is called HackAddict. This one's cool because it focuses more on real world challenges. So the thing is that as you're working on these, you're gonna actually get some experience with little bits and pieces tasks that software engineers do on a daily basis, like working with HTTP and SSL, or like building a web scraper, or like just anything that's kind of a real world task that you'll have to be doing. So it kind of runs double duty. So definitely recommend checking that out. And the last one is, if you are the kind of person who just wants like one problem in your inbox every day, maybe you're not actively searching quite yet, then yeah, check out Daily Coding Problem. And that way you're just gonna get like one problem to your inbox every day, and that'll get you on like a little more of a trickle, slower pace, so that you can keep practicing those interview questions. All right, so there's just two more things I'll say on the interview piece. So the first is Pramp. This one's awesome because you're gonna get some live practice with people who actually hop on a video call with you and will interview you. Because it's a lot different if you're solving a problem on LeetCode or something by yourself versus actually like talking through the process with a person. And so here's another thing is, while you're solving these problems on your own on HackerRank or LeetCode or something like that, you can also practice like speaking out loud as you solve the problem to kind of reveal your thought process. Because when you do the technical interview, they really want to hear your thought process and get to know more like what it's going to be like to work with you if you're working together on the whiteboard or something like that, or remotely. So with Pramp, you can actually sign up and then someone will basically be scheduled to interview you. And that's really cool because it's going to give you that real live experience. But in the same way, you're still learning. Like there's no pressure like there is in the actual interview. So that's just a great way to really prepare yourself for those. And the last one is a paid product. So this is if you want to take your skills to the next level. I've heard it's very highly recommended. It's called Algo Expert. And so this one is basically some specially selected problems that are going to help you level up the most efficiently possible. So that you can apply for, especially for bigger companies like Google, Facebook, and Amazon, etc. So if that's something you're interested in, go ahead and check that out as well. All right, so the next step is how do you actually succeed and take a tech interview? So after you do that phone call with the recruiter, they like you, they like your resume, the hiring manager gave it the approval, you're a fit for the position. According to your resume. So now they're going to test your actual skills. So on the one hand, they may just send you an email to do an automated code challenge. This is a little easier for a first step because you don't necessarily have to have the added pressure of someone on the phone if that's something that many of us feel nervous about, so that's fair. So yeah, in that case, the important thing is knowing that you just practice all the time to get really good at the actual code challenges. But for any kind of interview, especially when someone is interviewing you, there's kind of a 5-step process you can take. So the first is all practice. It's literally get your technical skills down, practice every day, and make sure that you're pretty solid on the types of questions that they're asking. This is gonna take some time, so it's okay if the first couple of interviews don't go that well. It's gonna be a process, and what's most important is that you learn from each step. So the second step is to prepare, and this is specifically for that company. So what you want to do is use some resources to go and find out specifically what that company does in terms of the questions they ask and in terms of their process, because that's going to make sure that you focus before taking that interview and that you're really prepared to really bring all the knowledge that you have to that company specifically. So in particular for this, you're going to want to check out Interview Insider. So this is a resource that tells you for a lot of different companies, it's kind of like crowdsourced. People talk about the kinds of problems that they're asking, so that way you can be prepared specifically for that company's interview. So that's the preparation stage. Okay, so the next step is the actual interview itself. So you're gonna show up on the call. If it's with a person, there's kind of like an introduction, like you might give a few minutes of a background on why you're suited to the role, because it's a new person, they're a technical person, they're probably on the team that you're gonna work with. So it's actually a good way to get to know them and kind of like talk about who you are, and that way they get a better idea of, if I work with this person, what's it gonna be like? So then there's the actual challenge itself. So kind of work from first principles. So start with the overall problem statement, restate it to them to make sure that you have understood it. And then you're gonna wanna design your approach and basically say, okay, well, I think the right way to approach this would be, we do this and then this and then this. And that's the outline of the problem. It's kind of like pseudocode. Depending on the code question, this is usually a good approach, but sometimes problems are simple enough that you can jump right in. So this is something where you got to test out different approaches, probably with practice interviews. So then you're solving the actual problem itself. Make sure to think out loud and basically talk through your thought process, because they just want to hear more about you and how you think, again, to feel like, how would this person fit into our team? And then at the end, make sure to have 1 or 2 questions ready that you can ask them about the company, about what they do at the company, and about, basically this team. And it's basically like getting to know them more to know if like they're actually going to be a good fit for you, if you would actually like to work on this team. All right, so the final step, so there's 2 final steps. And so the next step is review. So after you hop off the call, just spend a few minutes and kind of review it, cool down a bit, review it, and just figure out like, hey, is there anything that maybe you made a mistake about? That's okay. So what's important is that you just make a note, and that's something that you can practice on, so that in the next interviews as you go, you're gonna get better and better at those things, and pretty soon you're gonna be an expert at interviewing, and that's how you're gonna get a job super fast. And then the last step is just following up. So just send an email to the recruiter, like if you have contact info for the person who interviewed you, you can also reach out to them if you like and just say thank you for interviewing me. And if you have any like follow-up questions, you can ask those. But basically, you're just gonna say like, I really enjoyed doing the interview. It was great meeting like a member of the team. Again, this all depends on context. Yeah, and it's basically like, when can I expect to hear about next steps? Or in fact, I forgot to mention this, but at the end of when you're chatting with someone, just ask about next steps, and that way you're gonna know the timeline. And then again, when the follow-up email, just say, looking forward to hear back. Really enjoyed meeting someone from the team, etc. And the final piece is, if you don't hear back from them within the timeline that they gave you, that's a great time to just follow up and basically say, hey, just following up. Wanted to hear if there's any news regarding next steps, as I'm in the process with some other companies. Just something like that. That way you keep top of mind, and because it's possible that they lose you through the cracks. So this makes sure that doesn't happen, and this makes sure you're gonna have the maximum advancement to the next step from all these different companies. All right, so now I'm gonna cover the overall interview process. So all the technical interviews are gonna go roughly like that. You might have 1 or 2 tech screens. So then you're gonna have the kind of on-site or the final interview. And so the final interview might be several interviews with different team members in the same day. So it might last 3 or 4 hours, it might last the whole day, and so forth. And so basically you gotta be prepared to do several interviews in a row with different members of the team, and kind of like pitch yourself in a very similar way each time, because it's gonna be like a new person. And so just keep in mind that you're meeting members of the team, and you really wanna think about like, oh, what's it gonna be like to work with this person? And so the interview at this stage is gonna be kind of two-way. You're really finding out if this company is a good fit, and just asking questions that you're generally interested in about working at that company. So that way you're gonna know once you get to the next stage if that's the right company for you. All right, so the last step of the process for this on-site, so it's the offer. So this is actually the big deal. So if you do really well in the on-site or in that final interview, then this might come like right away at the end with a hiring manager or with the manager or with the recruiter that has helped you through the process. And in that case, or the alternative is that they might say, thanks for interviewing, we'll get to you with next steps. And then they will actually they might email you, or they will most likely call you a few days later, with the offer. So at the offer stage, it's basically like they're gonna say like, oh, thanks so much for interviewing. We love your skills or whatever. And then they're basically gonna say, we'd like to extend you an offer. And then so they give you the offer package or whatever that is. And so what you should say is basically, thank you so much for interviewing. I really appreciated this chance to meet the team. And I will take a look at this offer, and then definitely get back to you soon about this. Thanks so much for your time and everything. So you're being appreciative, and you're saying that you appreciated meeting the team and that it was a great chance to get to know the company. You can actually highlight something specific that you loved about that company or that team. It's like, oh, I really love this, blah, blah, blah. But you want to end by saying, I definitely want to take a look at this offer and get back to you soon about it. So basically, you're being neutral. You're saying thank you, and you're being neutral about the offer, and you're gonna take a look at it and then review it later, and that gives you some time and space to come up back, because sometimes if they lowball you or whatever, you can come back with just a standard negotiation, and that's gonna set you up for the best success. All right, so finally, if you aren't really getting the follow-up email about the offer or about anything, then what you want to do is keep following up with them just the same as before on regular cadence. Don't be too pushy, but basically follow up promptly within the timeline that they gave you, and say, hey, I just wanted to follow up regarding next steps, as I am interviewing with other companies. When could I expect a response back? And so by that time, when they read it, they're either going to call you with the offer, they're going to tell you thank you for your time, but we're going to pass, or they're going to say, you can expect to hear back in a week. And so on the third one, you just want to keep following up until they do finally say yes or no. And by this stage, you should be having, that 100 to 200 applications, maybe up to 1,000 if you have a longer search. That's perfectly fine. It is a volume game. And then you're going to have these phone screens, text screens on site. So it's kind of like a funnel. At each stage, you'll have fewer and fewer, and that's normal and natural. And so by the time you get to the offer stage, you will have hopefully several offers. Otherwise, just keep working at it, and you'll be getting that job super fast. So the last thing I wanted to mention was about hiring platforms for software engineers, because specifically for software engineering, there are a couple of platforms that are really great. And basically what they are, there's a couple called Hired and TripleByte. And so basically you go and you take a single interview with them, and they're assessing your skills in general. And then so what they're gonna do is take companies that are in their database and basically match you with roles that are like a good fit for you. And that way you can go straight into the final interview process with those companies. So this is great. I mean, honestly, if you have a pretty good skill set, you're almost certain to come out with an offer or two out of this process. So definitely check those out and participate in them. All right, everyone, thanks for watching. This has been all about how to get a job fast, part 2 for software engineers. And we basically covered how you can source jobs from recruiters on LinkedIn, as well as applying directly through the job portal with that specifically tailored resume, how to ace the phone screen, the technical interviews, how to do the best practicing all those interview questions, as well as how to navigate the entire process all the way to the offer. And finally, we covered a couple of really cool platforms that help you get a job by matchmaking you and bringing you right to that final on-site offer. So there was also a part 1, which was all about how to build your personal brand online, including getting your LinkedIn set up and including going into detail of every part of the resume and every section. So if that's something you want to brush up on, go ahead and definitely check out that video. If you like the content we're producing, just like this video. And if you want to see more of what we're producing and get notifications, go ahead and subscribe. And thanks so much for watching. Feel free to ask questions in the comments. We will be responding to those if you have any specific questions on your job search or anything for that matter. All right, have a good one.